It's down to 5 games here at Turner Field before they pack things up and head to a new ballpark in 2017. The fans are filing in, both the Braves fans and the Phillies fans, getting a little selfie action going, getting along before the start of tonight's game. Little pregame entertainment from the heavy hitters and the Tomahawk team. Game 2 coming up between the Phils and the Braves. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy along with Matt Stairs. Tonight will be the final start of the 2016 season for Adam Morgan. It seems appropriate that he'll pitch against the Braves in front of his hometown crowd. He'll have 16 people here tonight rooting him on and hoping that he finishes on a high note.
Well, he's been pitching very well his last 5 games. I really enjoy watching him pitch, and what I mean by pitching is he's actually hitting the corners. He's not trying to throw the ball as hard as he can. Very good two-seam fastball against the Mets right here. I love the two-seam fastball because it sets up the slider inside. You start looking out over the plate. Next thing you know, you're getting the off-speed pitches. You're swinging over the top of them. With confidence, pounding the strike zone, keeping the hitters off balance is why he's having great success right now.
Well, great success. In this ball game, he went 5 innings. He struck out 8. The Phillies wound up losing this ball game in extra innings, but he obviously did not fare in the decision. Over his last 5 starts, 1 and 2 with a 2.89 ERA. The shame of it is that they're just not winning games for him, and maybe it's because he's not going deep enough into these ball games.
Well, he's not going deep into the ball games. He's averaging a little over 17 pitches per inning, but home runs he's allowed 2 over his last 5 games, which tells me that he has really good movement and he's pitching down in the zone.
All right, speaking of home runs, Matt Kempson's coming over from the San Diego Padres, has 10 home runs for the Atlanta Braves. He has been a pretty good piece to the middle of this order. Part of the reason why they're playing much better.
Well, he's just a guy who protects Freddie Freeman. He's a very good mistake hitter. If you make a mistake, he's going to make you pay, hit it out of the ballpark. He's a very good off-speed hitter. I just love the fact that he protects Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman sees more pitches. Freddie Freeman's numbers gone up. So has Matt Kemp because he's getting guys on base. And look at the numbers, 51 games, 10 home runs, as you mentioned, 35 RBIs, 13 doubles, and OPS of 844.
So the OPS of 844, he protects Freddie Freeman. He protects Nick Markakis. Their numbers are up since he's arrived. We'll see if the Phillies can quiet him tonight in Game 2 of this 3-game series. It will be Adam Morgan on the mound for the Phils, and he'll be opposed by Mike Foltynewicz, who left his last start early because he got hit with a line drive. He's 8-5 on the year. When we return, we'll go to the CSN studios. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Toyota. Tested, trusted, Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. By Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. of this series between the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. The Braves are just now taking the field after winning last night's ball game. Pete Buchanan, when talking about last night's game, even today, still was not pleased with the effort by the bullpen, which you can imagine. I'm sure all of Delaware Valley felt the same way. We obviously did up here in the booth. He's hoping that maybe they can get a lead and add on as the game moves on, so they don't have to worry about the bullpen tonight. Let's take a look at the Phillies lineup, brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. They've moved Galvis up to the 2-hole. Part of that is because of Roman Quinn's injury. Whether he comes back for the rest of the year remains to be seen. Ryan Howard plays again, hitting 5th, and Cody Ashe will make the start in left field tonight. Peter Borges, his wife gave birth to a daughter, so Peter is not back here with the Braves. May not be back for a couple of days, but we'll keep you updated on that. And they will face right-hander Mike Foltynewicz, who's actually evolved into a pretty good pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. Matt, 8-5. He throws hard. He got hit around a little bit in his last outing, but was lifted after he got hit with a line drive to his calf.
No, Folty has a good arm. 106 strikeouts and 118 innings. Pretty good walk ratio as well. He does have a power arm. You take a look at the scouting report. He'll sit right around 95, 96. He will hit 98 at times. He is a 4-pitch pitcher. And what's impressive is that the use of the breaking ball has gone from 2014 at 16% up to almost 30% now. And he throws it for strikes whenever he needs to.
He's another one of the players that the Braves acquired in a trade, a former #1 pick by the Astros, and they continue to stockpile those kind of players. Time now for our Nissan keys to the game.
Well, key number 1, Adam Morgan, keep pitching. What I mean by that is keep on using all of your pitches. Don't lean back and throw as hard as you can. Live on those corners. 2, who will step up for the bullpen? Ramos has been hurt with a bad elbow lately. Gomez lost the closer's job. Neris is now the closer. We need someone else to step up.
Yeah, Pete even talked about the fact that he thought about bringing Genmar Gomez in to start after the rain delay last night, trying to get him back into a game. First pitch of the night, Cesar shows bunt, takes a strike, and we're underway. 96 from Foltynewicz.
And number 3 was add on. They had a chance last night to add on some runs. Left 12 guys on base.
Cesar overall this year hitting .294 with 6 home runs, and he hits this one the opposite way, and Kemp makes the sliding grab. And 1 out here in the first. Well, Cesar hits it hard, but is retired.
Yep.
And here's Freddy Galvis. Galvis has basically been sitting from 5th down to 8th while he's picked up these home runs. You see over his last 29 games, 287 with 7 home runs. But he's reached 20 home runs for the first time in his career. And he takes a fastball. The Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Joe Cancilla Broomall. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game. Joe will win $100. McDonald's mix and match any 2 for just $2.50 on the McDonald's Big Pick 2 menu. All right, that was 99.
That's a good arm. It's a power arm.
And he gets Galvis out front on an off-speed pitch. 2 outs.
Perfect location for the off-speed pitch. When you throw 99, hard slider down.
Last time he faced the Phillies was back on the 5th of July. 5 2/3, 8 hits and 5 earned runs. Phillies won that ball game 5-1. But he's a little different pitcher since that time. Odubel takes inside and low. See how important it is to get an early start. I mean, he was started early on that. Herrera has 3 hits and 6 at-bats against Foltynewicz.
That's been the key for Folty this year, is being able to fall behind and not have to throw a fastball for a strike.
Big kid, 6'4", 225 pounds. We mentioned just 24 years old. A former first-round selection in 2010 by the Astros. Out in front of a curveball, it's 2-2.
2-1 count.
So you think that his maturation, this is the pitch that's really gotten him to step forward?
Well, I would think so. I mean, again, you're throwing 98, 99. And then all of a sudden you can throw that curveball or slider or changeup whenever you need to for a strike. Just keeps the hitters thinking.
Fly ball center field, Inciarte. That's a 10-pitch first inning for Fultonevich. So 1-2-3 go the Phils. On to the bottom of the first. Adam Morgan getting ready to go. In last night's ball game, they came back to win the ball game. So now let's take a look at his lineup for tonight. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Well, the top is pretty much the same, 1, 2, and 3, and then Matt Kemp is added in. Flowers, who had a long home run last night, hits 5th. Malik Smith, they said, will play each outfield position during this series, and he's in right field tonight. Was in left field last night. They will face the left-hander Adam Morgan. Morgan 2-10 on the year, a 5.57 ERA. The ERA is the thing that's really come down since he was brought back up from the minor leagues. His struggles early on were well documented. He kind of reinvented himself and pitched well in AAA to get another chance up here in the big leagues.
Well, he has. It's all because of locating his fastball, using that two-seam fastball. See, the scouting report averages just under 91 miles an hour, 4 pitches. He will use all 4 pitches, and he has a very, very good curveball. That's the least amount of pitches he'll throw. He'll use it 5.7% of the time. And
this year he has pitched twice against the Braves. Now, the 2 times were back in April when he was really struggling, but he was 1-1 with an earned run average of 2.08. Facing Ender Inciarte, who was 0 for his last 6. 1 ball and 1 strike to Morgan. It'll be Inciarte, Garcia, and Freddy Freeman. 1-2.
See, that's the good pitch right there to get ahead. 1-2. Now throw it a little harder, a little farther outside, get him to chase it.
Tonight's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box. Kind of saw Cameron Rupp's reaction. Same thing as you had said, you know, when that pitch was too much over the plate. That's a better spot for that pitch. Even though Inciarte didn't offer at it. 2-2.
It's a good take.
Inciarte with 97 hits since the All-Star break. We mentioned last night it was tops in the big leagues. Well, he was hitless last night, so it's now second in the big leagues. To the right side, Ryan Howard aggressively goes to it, flips to Morgan, who tries to barehand it, but Inciarte will be safe. Infield single. I'm not not sure if anything could have been done differently, except if the throw would lead Morgan a little bit more to the bag, because Inciarte was moving up the line.
Well, they scored a base hit. It should be an error. It's a tough flip by Ryan Howard. If he leads them, the reason why it's a lot easier play for a lefty, because he gets the ball, he can tag him.
Oh, I got you.
Plus, he still would have been out if he leads them.
Yeah, because he was ahead of him at that point.
Right.
Well, it's an infield hit for Inciarte. And Adonis Garcia is the batter. He's hitting .269 with 14 home runs. Fly ball to center field. He was pretty aggressive in last night's game as well. Inciarte's tagging, and he's going to get a chance. Nope. One out.
You could hear Cameron yelling from here.
He was yelling. Cameron Rupp celebrating a birthday today. Should we have gotten him anything, you think?
He had 2 doubles last night. That's good. Get him a win tonight, a couple more hits.
I feel like we should have gotten him like a belt buckle or something. He likes belt buckles.
You don't think that man probably doesn't have about 40 or 50 in the closet?
Sure he does.
Cowboy boots.
You know what? It would have been good if we got him a belt buckle from Canada. That's what we should have done. They have to have those up there.
I have one in the room.
You do? Let's wrap it up and give it to him. Freddie Freeman, 34 hits during the month of September. Joey Votto has been on fire. He has 36 in September. Thank goodness we don't see the Reds, or we didn't see them in the second half of the year. Morgan makes a nice play and throws out Freeman. That was an athletic play. Runner in scoring position, 2 outs. Here's Matt Kemp.
That's one time right there where a lefty has the advantage, because that's the way he falls off the mound. But the nice thing is that when you field that ball, don't panic.
Inciarte's got a nice lead off second base. Fly ball to right center field. Playing perfectly is Aaron Altera. Man, he has to move a half step back. That's it. No runs, 1 hit. And 1 man left. On to the second. Adam Morgan's family, they're here in Moss. They are happy with that first inning. Phillies are. Protect them with Independence Blue Cross. They're part of a national system of Blue Cross and Blue Shield plans that cover more than 100 million members across the country. Live fearless. Learn more at ibx.com/biz. Here's Michael Franco as we begin the top of the second against Mike Foltynewicz. 1 ball and no strikes. Popped him up right side. Castro, the second baseman, is under it. And that will bring Ryan Howard to the plate. Howard hit a grand slam in last night's ball game, and all seemed right in the world when he did it.
Yeah, it did. Early 4-run lead, high fastball. Had a long talk with Ryan today about that swing. He said that he could see when that ball came off his bat, even though he hit it that high, it was kept on kicking. And so he knew he had tremendous backspin on it.
Pretty good challenge facing Foltynewicz to see if, he can catch up to this fastball, because we've seen it already at 99 tonight. Last 5 games, he's 4 for 13 with 3 home runs, 24 on the year, 56 RBIs, and 2 soft pitches to begin this at bat. Three soft pitches.
Now see if they go high fastball.
Well, that's exactly what they did. Second strikeout for Foltynewicz. And with 2 away, Cameron Rupp is coming up. Cameron celebrating his 28th birthday today. He has had a solid offensive year with 26 doubles and 16 home runs. Now his numbers since the All-Star break have dipped down, but still. Fastball, and it's 0-1. The end of the bat foul, and it's 0-2. This guy's just firing strikes right now.
Yeah, 14 strikes, 4 balls. Throwing strikes with everything. A slider. I haven't seen the changeup yet. Big curveball.
Surprised that he doesn't give up many home runs. He's only allowed 7 since the All-Star break.
No, not surprised. He's throwing 98. I think if he couldn't control his secondary pitches, if he couldn't throw them over for strikes, he would give up a lot more home runs. The reason why is that you could sit on the fastball and cheat a little bit.
Soft fly ball to left. Matt Kemp comes running in. Another quick inning for him. So the Phillies go down in order. We head to the bottom of the second. Phillies nothing and the Braves nothing.
Bronco, we have a big show coming up Thursday morning.
Yeah, Ray Dinger, Ricky Vitalico, and Carly Lloyd all here in the studio.
Catch us every weekday from 7 to 9 on TCN and stream us live at BroncosOnBroad.com.
We go to the bottom of the second here in Turner Field. Adam Morgan allowed an infield hit his first time up. He'll face Tyler Flowers, Dansby Swanson, and Malin Smith. There's Jared Eickhoff, who went 4 innings yesterday, struck out 5. I asked Pete, I said, all right, so it was an hour and 31-minute rain delay. When would you have allowed him to come back out? And he said, well, if it was within 40 minutes or so, I probably would have let him out. He said he was in the cage throwing. He threw, sat down, threw again. By the time they hit 40 or 45 minutes, he just felt like there was no chance to put him back out there. Here's Tyler Flowers to lead it off. He takes high, 1-0. You never know what the rules are with that, Matt, but I think you err on the side of caution this late in the year with a young pitcher, although, you know, he's 26.
You said it, though, young pitcher.
Up and away, 2-0. Flowers had a big swing in last night's ball game. That 3-run home run against Luis Garcia was huge. It brought the Braves to within 1. Off the end of the bat, flared out to center, so a base hit to begin the second. So an infield single in the first inning, and now a broken bat single here in the second. Well, Murph, Adam Morgan's been a different pitcher since he came back from the minor leagues. He's got a 1-3 record and a 3.86 ERA, and A.J. Ellis has had a hand in it. Bob McClure's had a hand in his success, too.
Yeah, a lot of people have, but the person that's had the biggest difference for Adam Morgan is Adam Morgan. And Bob McClure talked about that. He and I had a conversation about Adam today, and he said, look, the bottom line is that he has bought into what they were hoping that he would. They were trying to teach him. He said, think about Mark Burley and the way Mark Burley pitched for so many years effectively in the big leagues. That's the way they would like Adam Morgan to get to. But that's the kind of place thinking like Mark Burley.
That ball is over the head of Aaron Altair, and Flowers will score, and it'll be a triple for Swanson. A ball that Aaron Altair just missed getting out in right center field. The ball jumped pretty good off his bat.
So they're just within inches of catching that ball. He went a long way in right field.
So it's an RBI triple for Swanson. It's his first major league triple. Yeah, but Murph, for Burley, comparison isn't a bad comparison because he never overpowered anybody in the big leagues, at least as his career moved on.
Yeah, and despite the fact that Swanson's not playing along, we'll continue to talk about what the things that Adam Morgan is doing right since being back. And you're right, he is not an overpowering guy. And, you know, Adam Morgan certainly never believed he was, but, you know, at some point you have to learn how to pitch that way.
Malin Smith. Adam Morgan thought there was a chance the guy was coming home, so he looked there first, and Malin Smith, who runs well, was able to beat that out for an infield hit. Murph, neither guy is playing along here.
No one seems to be playing along tonight, but the bottom line is this, and Matt, you talked a little bit about it in the open, is that Bob McClure, they sent him down with a purpose. When he went down to AAA, learn how to do this, and some of the things was, first of all, first and foremost, movement over velocity is paramount for a guy like Adam Morgan, meaning his pitches need to move a little bit. He doesn't have to throw them as hard as everybody else. As long as they have that late movement, they can get guys to pop up or roll over. That was first and foremost. That's something that he was working on. And the other thing is the command is king. It's something that you hear all the time, but for a guy like Adam Morgan, he has to hit his spots. And Matt, you were talking the at-bat in the first inning about moving out a little bit further off the plate and a little bit further off the plate. That's the kind of thing they're trying to get him to think about all of the time. And I'll just finish with this. They were talking about a bullpen session that he had, and he was working on pitches, throwing them low and away. And he threw 3 or 4, Bob said, in a row, low and away. And then he said, all right, now I'm going to try to go in. And Bob said, wait a minute. Are you sure you can hit low and away every single time at this point? Can you do it 10 times in a row? Because unless you're sure, I don't want you to stop throwing low and away until you're 100% sure you can hit that spot. And that's what he's been doing in his bullpen sessions ever since. And that's the kind kind of thinking that they've got him going with right now, guys.
All right, well, let's see if he gets a break here, and he does. Tom Hallion signals out. So Malik Smith is out on that play. Take another look at this play at first.
I thought for a second it was Cesar's foot on the bag. It's just leaning up against first base. Clearly shows that he is on it, and the throw just beats him at first base.
So the putout goes 1-4 at first. Pitcher to second. And here's Castro with the infield in. Castro hitting a .189. This year in AAA hit .257.
You know, going back with Adam Morgan, I would say a Tom Glavine type pitcher. Throws about the same velocity. Not going to overpower you, but he's going to outsmart you.
Man won a lot of games, outsmarting everybody.
And you know what, Matt? It's funny you say that, because in the conversation with Bob today, I don't know if you guys noticed, I'm sure you did, during the rain delay last night here in Atlanta, they played an entire video on Tom Glavine and his career, and you know where he was when he first started and where he ended up, obviously, as a Hall of Famer. And Bob said that he and Adam sat and watched a good part of that together. And Bob kept saying, "See, that's what I'm talking about. That right there, dude. That's what I'm talking about." So even during the rain delay, it's a teaching moment for Bob McClure.
I think that's what a lot of this year has been. 1 ball and 2 strikes as Bob looks on to see if Adam Morgan can get out of this. He's allowed 1 run so far. And it remains 1-2. Castro playing tonight because there's a lefty on the hill. And plus, Brian Snitker said there's some guys that I want to get at least a game as a starter before the end of the year.
These are the games I hated to have off. If you're going to have one day off, you'd like to have Sunday off.
The last day of the year?
Oh, yeah. If you get a day off.
Another bouncer foul, and it remains 1 ball and 2 strikes.
You know, usually Sunday, well, I guess Sundays now are what, 3 o'clock games?
Everybody plays at 3. First pitch is 3:05 everywhere.
So you know you're not hitting the last day. And being a bench guy for the last few years, I always played that last game, and I didn't do so well.
Off the end of the bat, that's going to flare out towards center. It'll drop in for a base hit. So a couple hits in this inning have been bloops, but they've produced a couple runs. Swanson scores from third. RBI single for Castro. And it's 2-0 Braves.
It wasn't hit the hardest. See the location up a little bit. That's a changeup where you want to make sure you get it down in the zone and make him hit it hard into the ground or soft into the ground.
Here's Fultonevich. Fultonevich hitting a .143 this year. He's trying to sacrifice Castro into scoring position. And he bunts it to the right side. And Morgan's been very busy tonight. Sacrifice successful, 1-4. And it brings Inciarte to the plate. Ciarte had a single his first time up, a little bloop single. Actually, the little bouncing single over to first. So he's up for a second time. Just a bit low, I guess. And Ciarte is among a handful of Braves since Brian Snitker was hired back in May that has really put together a pretty good run, hitting .295. Freddie Freeman has hit .314 since Snitker was hired. Adonis Garcia's kind of come into his own as well. He's a totally different hitter than what we saw in the first month or two of the year. Folks wonder what the Braves will do next year. They are 55-64 since Brian Snitker took over. Players would like him back. Management has not really decided yet. They said we're going to take it till the offseason, which you don't blame them for doing that. Longtime minor league manager and coach, longtime third base coach here in the big leagues. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Mets and the Marlins are tied up at 2. Martin Prado and James Loney each have homered, both 2-run shots. Loney's seen his playing time dwindle down somewhat since Lucas Duda's come back. Wild card, Miami is essentially done. But the Mets have a half-game lead over San Francisco, and the Giants have a game lead over the Cardinals. Boy, a game lead over anybody at this point is just seems like a valley that you have to climb out of. The end of the bat, 1-1. Well, he's not afraid to swing, huh?
No, he's not. And that's the changeup right there where Adam Morgan needs to be with. That's the one that Murph was talking about. Can you hit that corner low and away? That's where he needs to sit, especially with that changeup. His pitches have been up in the zone a little bit today with his fastball and his changeup, minus that last one. We haven't seen that good slider down and into right-hander yet. See if we get it here.
Well, he tried to get it there, and he hits it softly to short. 2-run score in the inning for the Braves. 2 runs on 3 hits. They leave 2. We'll head to the 3rd. 2-0 Atlanta. Fans trivia question. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Matt, the question is, in 2005, which Atlanta Brave led the National League in home runs and RBIs? The answer will be revealed a little later on. As we start the third, Phillies down 2-0. Foltynewicz has not allowed a base runner. He has 2 strikeouts so far. The trade that the Braves made with the Astros has kind of worked out for both. I mean, Evan Gattis has been good for the Houston Astros. Man can hit.
Did a home run today.
On the inside corner, 1-2. Essentially, Gattis, in his 2 years with the Astros, has hit 58 home runs. Last year he had 27. This year 31. He's not the triple machine he was last year. He had 11 triples last year. Most of his time this year is split between DHing and catching. And Cody Ashley down looking on a curveball. There you go, Matt. That's the pitch you were talking about. Phillies, after tomorrow's ball game, will head home for the final 3 at Citizens Bank Park. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A reminder that Saturday is a 1:05 start now because of national television. Fan Appreciation Day is Sunday. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. Tomorrow, the last game the Phillies will play here at Turner Field. Winding down some pretty good memories that they had here at this ballpark. That hot day game where they combined for the no-hitter. Cole Hamels started when 5. Jonathan Papelbon finished it off.
Ken Giles in the middle.
Ken Giles in the middle. Altair swings through it 1-2. I remember after the game, Cole Hamels said, "I've never been hotter." I mean, he was wringing wet. Two balls, 2 strikes to Altair.
Diekman was a part of that as well.
He was. It was a weird day. Back to the screen.
See, that's the difference right there from the start of the season, from Folty to now, is that he's not relying on that 3-2 fastball. He has the confidence of being able to throw that breaking ball over for a strike.
Off the hands, and a base hit it to center field. Aaron Altair just fought that baby off. So the first hit of the night for the Phillies, and it is a 1-out single. Castro did everything he could to try to track that down, and now Adam Morgan's coming up. That was a 7-pitch AB for Aaron Altair.
Well, good things will happen when you get the fastball down in the zone. Swung at a few pitches over his head, or let her high, I should say.
Morgan bunts, and he just deadens it. Freeman throws him out. Sack is successful, 3-4. A couple notes on Turner Field. The Olympics took place in 1996, and then they renovated the entire yard. And in '97 it opened for baseball. See the construction cost. They won 10 division titles here and had 2 wild card berths. The Phillies 7 games under 500 here at Turner Field, which isn't bad considering how many division titles the Braves won for a good part of their time here at Turner Field. Some big time games here, though. The Phillies and the Braves would battle when the Phillies won their 5 division crowns a couple of times. Ryan Howard had some huge home runs here. Two to Cesar. Altair at second. That ball gets away, and Altair goes to third. Not as soft around home plate tonight as it was last night.
No, but they put about 100 gallons of water on the infield today. Took them about an hour to water the field. Last 2 pitches trying to get the fastball inside to Cesar. Overthrown it, tailing it back towards the middle. For him, he's got to throw it right at his right elbow. If you aim for his right elbow, that ball is going to tail back a little bit. He's probably thinking corner of the plate. Then when he's missing, it's coming back out over the plate. So you set a target. Look at that elbow. Let it tail back inside for a strike.
Cesar fouls another one off. So it remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, we saw the 7-pitch at bat to Altair. This will be the 8th pitch of the at bat for Cesar. And that ball gets away from Flowers. Here comes Altair, and he'll score. Well, got to him a little bit here. Now it's a 2-1 ball game. Squirted a wild pitch. Looked like it went right through Flowers' glove.
Might have. Overthrew it. Just didn't get his glove up in time. So how do they determine that if it's a wild pitch or a pass ball?
I think it's just judgment, honestly. That's one where you probably could go pass ball on it because he did get his glove on it. I mean, it was coming fast, but I think it's just judgment by the official score. And a lot of times they will ask after the game if, all right, were you crossed up? If there was a cross up, if you don't see it. Check swing. He did not go. Ball 4. That was a good at bat by Cesar.
Very good at bat. Fought off some tough pitches. Took some tough pitches just like the last one.
Most home runs since the All-Star break among shortstops in Major League Baseball. Freddie Galvis tied with Jonathan VR. Hey, that Gene Segura is having a heck of a year with Arizona, too.
His 20th last night.
Yeah. Brad Miller's been a surprise. Hit sharply, backhanded by Freddy Freeman. Freddie Galvis barely comes out of the batter's box. Phillies do get a run back in the inning. Middle of the third. Braves lead is down to 1. 2 wild pitches help Aaron Altair score. Precision play of the game, and we just got a peek at it.
It's called no panic at first base. Nice soft hands, nice play. On a well hit ball by Freddie Freeman. Watch how we just kind of just catches that ball and just olays nice and easily. Big man has some soft hands catching that baseball.
Yeah, we were talking during the break about who's going to be the Gold Glove winner, whether it be Freddie Freeman or let's say somebody like Paul Goldschmidt. That will be an interesting race because Goldschmidt's already won one. As Freeman is hit by a pitch and he's aboard.
Goldschmidt, we said, had 4 errors. Freddie Freeman has 5. And I think 3 against us. 2 in 1 game.
We put a lot of pressure on him, Matt. Pressure to perform.
It's because we hit the hard baseball hard.
That's right. Well, that means that Freeman has reached base safely in 46 consecutive games. Jason Worth had the longest earlier this season at 46, so Freeman ties it. 29-game hit streak coming into tonight's ball game. He was quoted as saying last week, we really don't want the season to end. Well, he certainly doesn't. Matt Kemp flied to right his first time. Hits that one sharply past Franco down the left field line. That'll go to the corner. Freeman long striding his way to third. Will be held up there. It's a double for Matt Kemp, his 38th of the year. And the Braves have 2 in scoring position with nobody out here at the bottom of the third.
Well, Kemp has absolutely killed us this year on curveballs. Because he gets his foot down so early and recognizes the curveball. Plus his barrel stays to the zone for a while. I was talking to AJ about a week ago about Matt Kemp on hitting the curveball. And he says, I bet you I've seen him hit 60 home runs off curveballs. Low curveballs.
Former teammate with the Dodgers. Flowers first time up, flared one out to center field for a base hit. 1-2. Now Morgan looking for a put-away pitch here. Curveball out to left center field. Cody Ashe going back on it, and he makes the catch. Freeman will tag. Kemp will as well. And it's 3-1. Sacrifice fly for Flowers. You know, you gotta kind of manage your way through innings like this when the first two batters get into scoring position. Dansby Swanson will be the hitter. He tripled his last time up and drove in a run. The infield is in. Hits that one sharply. That's a fair ball. A little late call by Tom Hallion. It'll be an RBI double. Swanson has his second extra base hit. He runs well, so you got to get it in quickly. That scores Matt Kemp. 4-1. Braves on top. Well, they say he's getting pretty close to figuring it out, Dansby Swanson. They wanted to give him a taste of the big leagues this year. He's gotten that taste, and he will be the everyday shortstop when they go into the new ballpark in 2017.
Inside the line.
Yep, it is reviewable, but we can just see right there that that is a fair ball.
You think the Braves' game plan was to attack early because they know Morgan's a strike thrower? He's throwing 39 pitches.
I think we've seen other teams do that too, but yeah, you're probably right. Runner goes from second. Throw to third is high. Swanson got a heck of a jump. I don't think there was much that Cameron Rupp could do on that.
No, Morgan actually gave the one look, and he has that big leg kick. Not even close.
I thought maybe he was going to turn back towards second because he does do that. A lot of the Phillies pitchers do that. And Alex Smith strikes out. 2 outs. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Yellowwood brand pressure treated pod. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it. And by McDonald's. Mix and match any 2 for just $2.50 on McDonald's McPick 2 menu. With Matt Stairs and Greg Murphy, I'm Tom McCarthy. Here we are in Atlanta. Game 2 of a 3-game series. Bills lost game 1. And now trailing here in game 2, 4-1. Braves have used 2 runs in the last 2 innings. 2 of the 4 driven in by the guy at third. Castro singled his first time up.
Still wish that Adam Morgan would throw that cutter that we've seen him throw last year in spring training.
Just into the mix.
Yeah, it just keeps the hitters so honest.
That was heading right into the Braves TV booth. Tonight, 54% fastball, 36% slider, 7% change.
2% curveball, and both of them were hit hard.
Another bouncer foul. Four runs on 6 hits and 47 pitches. That's all through 3. This is a 16 pitch inning so far. He's fouling everything off different ways, though. This will be the 9th pitch. 5 straight foul balls from Castro. And now the 2-2. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Matt, we were watching this ball game today. Robinson Cano hit his 36th. Kyle Seager hit his 30th. Boy, the Seager brothers are really ripping some numbers this year. And now Seattle 84 and 74. A game and a half now out of the American League wild card, depending on what happens tonight. Line drive over the head of Maikel Franco. That'll score Swanson. Castro on his way to second. And now he puts the brakes on. Nice job by Cody Ashe. 5-1 Atlanta on top. 2 singles in the game for Castro. I mentioned this is the final start of the year for Adam Morgan. I know he was looking forward to having a big start in front of his friends and family.
Fastball inside. That side view showed everything right there, how he tucks his hands in. He did get jammed. Look at the location of this ball. Well off the plate.
Up and away. Fultonevich sacrificed his last time up. So far 22 pitches this inning. This will be the 23rd pitch. The whole body of Fultonevich went around on that, and it's 1-2. Swing and a miss. Cameron Rupp dropped baseball, but Foltynewicz is out once he gets out of the circle. A strikeout finishes up the third. 3-run score for the Braves. We'll head to the fourth. Phillies trail Atlanta 5-1.
It was the date September 28, 2011. The Phillies beat the Braves 4-3 in 13 innings. And, well, that was win number 102 on the season. That, of course, was a new franchise record. It was also win number 646 for Charlie Manuel, who passed Gene Mock for the all-time winningest manager in Phil's history as well. So a very special day on September 28, 2011, guys. I know you both remember that date.
It was a crazy way to finish up that season. Here we go. Watch how Hunter Pence, I mean, he got all of this one.
He crushed this ball.
Yeah, it's all he really needed to do.
Just throw the barrel or hands.
And all those pieces of the bat out toward the hole at second base. Brian Schneider scores. And then David Herndon, of all people, comes in and is able to get the 3-6-3 double play to wrap it up. Everybody was all smiles after that. 102 wins, franchise record. That win by the Phils eliminated the Braves and sent the Cardinals into the postseason. And of course, the Cardinals went on to beat the Phillies. After the Phillies went 102-60, they finished 13 games over the Atlanta Braves to win that division. You know, people wonder, as Odubel Herrera leads it off, there's been so many great games played in this ballpark for the Phillies. You know, that has to be up there. 102 wins to match the franchise record, and the way it finished up with that ball that was hit by Hunter Pence. And because, you know, franchise record in wins, Charlie Manuel gets the franchise record for victories by a skipper. Odubel swings through it. One away. Thinking today about some of the other games that have taken place here at Turner Field while the Phillies have played. Obviously, we talked about the one last night where Brad Lidge could possibly have had his save streak end if not for the strike thrown by Shane Victorino. How about back on August 9, 2006? That was the day that Harry Kalas said to Chase Utley, "You are the man." That was here in Turner Field. On the outside corner to Franco. Franco lines it back through the middle, a high fastball. 97 on that one. And he's aboard with a 1-out single. And here comes Ryan Howard.
The ball was thrown at 97, went back about 107.
Ryan struck out on a high fastball his first time up.
Another curveball to start him off with. You know, I said last night it'd be nice to see Ryan Howard get 6 more home runs. Joking, I mean, it'd be awesome, but it'd be nice to see him get 1 more. End the season with 25.
How about this, Matt? Most home runs against National League East opponents. Schmidt's #1 with close to 300. Ryan, though, is on that list. A list of greats that includes Barry Bonds, Andres Dawson. Back when Schmidt played, I mean, obviously they played teams within the National League East more often. One ball, 1 strike to Howard. Tapper foul.
Barry Bonds would probably have that many home runs versus every division.
Yeah, if you go East, Central, maybe a little more against the West, but yeah.
American League.
Curveball flipped out towards center field. Inciarte going back. Well, Ryan Howard provided our Geico quote of the day, and it's about playing in Atlanta. I've always loved coming down to Atlanta, playing down here. It's been a great field. It's been one of those stadiums where I've been able to have some success. Some, huh? 23 home runs here at Turner Field. Against the Braves overall, 52 home runs, 154 RBIs. And at Turner Field, 23. Out towards center field as well, and Inciarte has plenty of room to roam. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left for the Braves. On to the bottom of the 4th, Atlanta 5 and the Phillies 1. Toyota. Visit buyatoyota.com to find your RAV4 today. Toyota, let's go places. Let's go Phils. We'll move to the bottom of the 4th inning. It's 5-1 Atlanta on top. Braves with 5 runs on 7 hits. Man, have they turned this season series around, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
Swept out the Phillies the last time they faced each other. They won the first game here. I guess they've kind of been doing that to everybody recently.
Can understand now why they don't want the season to end.
Yeah, they're ascending now. They cannot finish out of the basement in the East. Inciarte takes low, 1-0. There's a curveball. Is that a slider, man?
Slider. Which is actually a good point. It's hard to determine if it's a slider or a curveball. It means it's too loopy for a slider.
That one's ripped into right field. Aaron Altair is going to try to cut it off, but Inciarte can run well, and he's on his way to second. And he is there with his 24th double of the year. Well, Braves record by month. It was not good through June. And then July kind of got worse. But since they've turned the page a little bit, 13-15 in August and 14-9 in September. They're 18-12, Matt, in their last 30 games.
Well, they're not having a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. They have set lineups via trades, whatever it is. They have a very good 1 through 5, and I think Garcia is a guy that's been really helping this lineup as well.
Well, I would agree. I mean, I think to a certain extent, not that anybody was making fun of Adonis Garcia last year, but he was lost. And then at the beginning of this year, I still thought he was a little lost. And so they hope that with Garcia at third and Swanson at short, plus a whole host of other prospects that they still have. Kevin Seitzer to your right, the hitting coach. Tip, and it's 0-1.
That one got Cameron pretty good.
Yeah, that's not a good birthday gift.
No.
I'm telling you, I should have got him a belt buckle. That got a piece of his foot. Garcia, since he came back from AAA, which is back on the 27th of May, is hitting .275 with 13 home runs and 55 runs batted in. And the other thing he's doing, I mean, he will strike out, but he's not striking out as much. Honestly, he doesn't play a bad third base.
No, he doesn't. Showed a strong arm last night on the ball that he bobbled. Fired across, off balance.
Tapper right in front of the plate. Adam Morgan has to hurry. Oh man, look out. That throw goes up the right field line. A run will score. It gets by Altair, and Garcia, who doesn't run well, will at least get to third. This has all around been a very sloppy road trip for the Phillies.
Yeah, this one will probably go down as a single and two-base error. I thought Adam might have had a chance when he came off the mound, but he doesn't play it properly. He's still moving a little bit, and this air mails it. And Aaron Altair down the corner thinks he's going to hit that corner, but it goes right down past him. Watch him open up.
So it's 6-1 Atlanta. It is a single, E1, no RBI, and Freddie Freeman is the hitter. And Freeman fouls it away. Inside.
One thing I just noticed about Adam Morgan's arm slot is that he changes his arm slot on breaking balls compared to fastballs. Fastballs, he really thinks about getting on top. And when he throws an off-speed pitch, he drops his angle, his arm angle a little bit. And I just noticed that about 6 pitches ago. It seems when he throws a fastball, he really wants to get on top of that fastball, so he gets his arm up higher.
Downward plane.
And he's trying to get that downward plane. That was a changeup right there. Then when he wants to get that break, he kind of drops a little bit, just a little bit though.
Ball gets away from Cameron Rupp, and a run will score. Adonis Garcia, 7-1. Pitch allows that run to score.
Just hits it off the edge of the glove of Cameron.
Ball 4, Freddie Freeman walks. Here comes Matt Kemp. All right, Murph, what kind of influence has Matt Kemp had on this lineup since he arrived?
Well, a big one. And, you know, when you talk about putting a professional hitter in the middle of a lineup, most of the time, good things are going to happen. But, you know, you go back to the early struggles this year for this offense, for the Atlanta Braves offense. I was talking to their hitting coach, Kevin Seitzer, today about it. He said, you know what, early in the season, it just felt like everything was kind of working against them. First of all, their best hitter in their lineup, Freddie Freeman, got off to one of the worst starts he's had in his career. They also had Nick Markakis, who was struggling at the time. Ender Inciarte was hurt. Things started to get better after the All-Star break. Those guys started to get hot, and then they added Matt Kemp into the middle of that lineup at the beginning of August. You see the numbers, 27 and 24 with him in the lineup. They're averaging 5.2 runs per game, and they have a team batting average of 280 since he was inserted in the middle of that lineup. Both of those numbers are 4th best in baseball. It has been quite a turnaround. Now, certainly, Freddie Freeman started to hit. Nick Markakis started to hit. And Ender Inciarte got healthy and was at the top of that lineup. For all of those reasons, they started to get better. They started to click. Less guys were putting pressure on one another, or putting less pressure on themselves, and able to rely on those big guys in the middle. But then they add Matt Kemp, and you saw what he has been able to do. He's been a perfect fit for the middle of this lineup, that professional hitter that they were looking for, guys.
Yeah, as Matt said during the open, 4 100 RBI seasons, including this year. 1 ball and no strikes to him, with Freeman leading off first. Swing and a miss, 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, since the 1st of August, this is what some of the other hitters, and you can see Kemp's in there too, have done. Freeman 360, Inciarte 352. And then Markakis and Adonis Garcia, not too shabby in their own right. Markakis, he's not a cleanup hitter. And that's where he was batting for most of the season.
And that's your 1 through 5.
That's it.
That's a solid 1 through 5.
You know, guys, Pete McCannon has talked about it a couple of times this year, late in the season, about, maybe next year, and he's hoping that they could add a hitter or two in the middle of that Phillies lineup. And he pointed to Yoenis Cespedes and what he was able to do for the Mets lineup last year when he arrived late in the season. And he pointed again to Matt Kemp in the middle of this lineup and what this lineup now looks like with Matt Kemp in it. And, it's all about slotting guys and guys getting back into the roles. As you mentioned, Nick Markakis, not your ideal cleanup hitter, but he was forced into that role because they didn't have a guy and because of injuries as well. So when you go out and get those guys that fit into those spots, it just makes everybody else better.
Kemp hits one in the air to left center field. That is well hit, and it is not coming back. Wow. A long 2-run home run. Still nobody out here in the 4th inning. 4 hitters up, 4 hitters across the plate. And it's 9-1 in favor of the Braves.
Well, Matt Kemp is a very good low ball hitter. We mentioned earlier about his curveball ability to hit mistakes down the zone. This ball is down the zone, right in his sweet spot. This ball's crushed.
Tyler Flowers fouls it back to the screen. Well, Phil Klein warming up in the bullpen. Low 2-1. Had to play foul again. Swing and a miss. Three strikeouts for Morgan, and now Swanson's coming up. Towards shortstop, spinning toward Galvis, and he throws him out. Well, pitches by inning, so 2 outs here. 25 pitches in the 4th. I think everybody longs for, as a baseball player, everybody longs for that one game that finishes up their year, so they can walk away kind of feeling good about themselves. It's hard to walk away, I would think, if you're Adam, with a night like this. 10 hits, 9 runs.
That's where you ask, and it will not happen, but ask, hey, can I throw 1 inning that last day?
Yeah, there's a bullpen game on Saturday, which, could be his bullpen day, as Malik Smith is thrown out 4-3 on a wonderful play by Cesar Hernandez. So 4 runs score in the inning for the Braves. Matt Kemp's 2-run home run caps the offense. 9-1 Atlanta as we head to the 5th. Jet printers deliver unmatched quality, and their Jet Intelligent Toner cartridges print up to 1/3 more pages. Get yours from who but WB Mason today and experience the difference. Nobody beats WB on HP. Cody Ashley leads it off in the top of the 5th inning. Phil's down 9-1. Ashley struck out his first time up. 1-2. Just a bit inside, 2-2. Ashley getting a chance to play left field tonight because of the injury to Roman Quinn. Pete had said that he was planning on giving him a start here in the next couple of days anyway. Cody pops it foul down the left field line. Garcia, the third baseman, and it's back a row. Nice catch by that guy. Gets a congratulations from Adonis Garcia.
They both have their gloves.
She doesn't think he's going to get it. Into the Braves dugout. Another one fouled away. And Cody Ashley draws a walk. Leadoff walk here in the 5th inning, and now Aaron Altair is coming up. Fastball, and it's 0-1.
I would love to see Aaron Altair get a hold of one. This catch one out front. Looks like he's thinking so much to hit the ball to right field that he's just starting a hair late on every pitch.
Boy, that was a fastball right down the chute.
He's just getting his front foot down too late.
Check swing.
You know, and honestly, a man that size doesn't need to have a big stride. He can go wider stance. He's not going to lose any leverage. And just think about throw the barrel to the ball every time. Instead of now with that leg kick, he has to be a little perfect. He lands hard sometimes. He lands really late at times. He dives in at times. Just widen your stance just a hair. And all it is just a rotation of the hips.
And he goes around at a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. And 1 out. 5 strikeouts now for Foltynewicz. With MLB.TV Premium, watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 supported devices and enjoy a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Well, Adam Morgan will bat here in the 5th inning. Tries to bunt, and it's 0-1. Now, Adams batting here in the 5th. He may not go out and pitch the bottom of the 5th, but the bullpen is, I don't want to say overused, but is battered a little bit. So maybe he does pitch another inning to at least get through 5. Klein, who is stretched out. Pete McCadden talking to A.J. Ellis.
Well, if Klein's still throwing in the bullpen.
Yeah, I think Klein's coming in.
Klein's coming in. And I know we're short a few guys on the bench, pitch hitting wise, but
there's ball 4, and it gets away from Flowers, but that's not a big deal. 2 walks now in the inning for Foltynewicz, and runners on 1st and 2nd, and Cesar Hernandez is coming up. Roger McDowell coming out. I think Foltynewicz was a little disappointed that was not called a strike.
It just wasn't caught properly, which shouldn't matter, but
home plate umpire is Stu Surewater. Well, the clock is down to 0.
39.
Runners on 1st and 2nd, 1 out. Here's Cesar Hernandez. Cesar walked in the 3rd. He's 0 for 1. Joel De La Cruz warming up in the pen. It's interesting. I wonder if they're concerned about him protecting an 8-run lead. He's given up 2 hits. Inside, 2-0. Out towards shortstop. Swanson has it. He goes to 2nd for 1. That's all they'll get. So they do get the middle runner. A fielder's choice with runners on 1st and 3rd. And Freddie Galvis is the scheduled hitter for the Phillies. Freddie is struck out and he's grounded out tonight, so he is 0 for 2. Freddie hits it out toward left field. Matt Kemp going back on it. And that's it for the Phils here in the 5th inning. No runs, no hits, 2 men left. On to the bottom of the 5th inning. 9-1 Atlanta on top of the Phils. Take a look at some of the Phillies prospects who are going to be in the Arizona Fall League. Tom Goodwin will be the manager of the Scottsdale Scorpions. He will manage these young fellows, including Brandon Liebrand, whose father Charlie pitched for the Atlanta Braves. Scott Kingery, who had a nice year not only in Single-A but also in Double-A. Mitch Walding also continued to emerge. Some of these players you'll hear a lot more about as the years move on. But again, you'll be able to follow them beginning in October 17th. All right, so Adam Morgan will indeed pitch as we go to the 5th inning. And he will face Castro to start it off. Castro, and then Snyder's out in the on-deck circle to pinch hit. Well, that has to be an innings thing. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, the guy has a 9-1 lead. Castro 2 for 2. And it's 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, very interesting.
Has to be an innings thing. 80 pitches. Shallow left or shallow right center field. Cesar waves off Aaron Altair. So here is Snyder. Snyder takes a fastball. 227 on the year, 3 home runs here in the big leagues, along with 8 RBIs. Pulls that one foul into the seats. That woke a few folks up. Swing and a miss. Snyder strikes out. 2 outs here in the 5th inning. That'll bring Ender Inciarte to the plate. Well, Murph, Pete Buchanan gave us a little bit of an update on Roman Quinn today, and so did Roman.
He did indeed. You know, the Phillies were playing without him in the second part of yesterday's game, and obviously he's not in the starting lineup tonight. It is an oblique injury, as we talked about, and, you know, it's an injury that Roman Quinn has dealt with before. This is how he did it yesterday, right before he struck out in last night's game in the 6th inning. He swings very hard and ends up pulling that oblique muscle. Now, the good news is Roman said today that it is not nearly as serious as when he was dealing with it when he was down in the minor leagues that kept him out for a couple of weeks. He does not think it's that way at all. Pete Mackanin said he believes that Roman's just almost afraid to hurt it anymore, so that's why he's out tonight. What Pete said is he'd like Roman to come out tomorrow. He'll do some light throwing, some jogging, and maybe even take a couple of swings, and they'll see where they're at. They certainly don't want him to hurt it any more than it already is, especially with just a couple games left. So, officially, day-to-day, Roman Quinn. We thought for sure his season was over, but perhaps we see him before it's all said and done.
All right, Murph, we appreciate that. Adam Morgan's through 5 innings, and we'll see what the staff decides to do in the 6th. We move on to the top of the 6th here in Atlanta. Of the week is potentially putting the finishing touches on his Phillies career. The 2005 NL Rookie of the Year quickly became the 2006 National League MVP. Ryan currently sits second on the team's home run list, third in RBIs, and is among the top 10 in slugging, games, at-bats, total bases, doubles, and walks. Ryan Howard was the ultimate big piece in the middle of the 2008 World Championship lineup. He brought excitement to Philadelphia for 13 seasons, and he brought class. And it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Well, the number 5 here at Turner Field is being peeled off by Evander Holyfield, an Atlanta native, former heavyweight champion of the world. Asked somebody, I said, well, what's the significance of Evander peeling off the number 5? And they said, there's no significance. He's just from Atlanta. He is one of the famous people from this city.
Gotta believe if he wasn't take off 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, he could go right ahead.
He almost took 4 off when he just peeled that off. Odubel Herrera swings at the first pitch from Joe De La Cruz out to right center field, and that's going to take a 1-hop off the wall. And Odubel will get to second base with a leadoff double.
I would say that Odubel Herrera was the happiest guy in the ballpark to see a pitching change.
And I think there's going to be a line forming behind him.
Yes, I concur. Good swing. He didn't have that swing the first 2 at-bats.
Here's Maikel Franco. Franco is popped out and he is singled. He hit a high fastball through the middle his last time up. This one to the right side. And Castro's able to track it down. Castro was shifted over toward the middle, so I thought maybe there was a chance it would get through. So runner at third. Here's Ryan Howard. 0-1. A little different fastball from De La Cruz compared to Fultonevich. Little different.
About 9 miles, 8 miles. Little different pop of the glove as well.
To the right side. Smothered by Freeman. A run will score. It'll be an RBI with the ground out. 9-2. As Odubel Herrera crosses the plate. 3 unassisted at first. So Howard picks up an RBI. And Cameron Rupp will be the hitter here in the 6th. Fastball inside, 1 ball, no strikes. Man, I could be wrong, but I do think they've already taken the Wi-Fi over to the new ballpark.
I would agree, Tom. It's a little frustrating. When I say a little frustrating, I'm being very nice.
1 ball, 1 strike to Cameron Rupp. Hit high, 2-1. De La Cruz 0-7 this year with an ERA of 4.92. Against the Phillies, he's pitched now in 5 games. He's made 3 starts against the Phillies. His ERA 4.50 against them coming in. Moving off speed pitch, 3-2. Strikes out. Phillies do get a run after the leadoff double by Odubel Herrera. He comes across the plate on the ground out by Ryan Howard. Middle of the 6th. It's a 7-run Atlanta lead. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer. Visit DelValHondaDealers.com. By Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. Here's right-hander Phil Klein will take over for the Phillies as we go to the home 6th inning. So Adam Morgan pitched 5 innings tonight, 10 hits and 9 runs in his final start of the 2016 season. Here's Klein to pitch. Phil Klein spent time this year down in the minor leagues in AAA. He's pitched in only 2 games here at the big club. He's made a start with the big club. He was the International League Pitcher of the Month in the month of August. He went 4-0 with a 1.06 ERA. Opposition down in AAA hit a .154 against him. That one's pulled toward third. Franco has it. And Tommy Joseph, who comes on to play first base, makes the out. So a double switch for Pete Macadam. And here's Freddy Freeman, who's got a 29-game hitting streak on the line. By the way, Emmanuel Burris is also in the ballgame playing shortstop for the Phils. 1-1 pitch to Freeman. That one's down the left field line, foul. Here's Manny. Galvis with A.J. Ellis in the backside of the bench. A line drive, base hit it to center field. That is a 30-game hit streak for Freddie Freeman. Well, it looked like he may have been struck out earlier in the AB, but was able to keep life going, keep the at-bat going.
Keep the line drives going. High fastball. He just punches out to center field.
Well, it's the longest hitting streak in Major League Baseball. Game hitting streak is the longest for the Braves since Dan Uggla's 33-game hitting streak. Uggla had 33-game hitting streak in 2011. Swing and a miss, 0-2. That is not Dan Uggla, but that's somebody wearing Dan Uggla's jersey. But Dan Uggla is here tonight. 0-2 pitch coming to Matt Kemp with one out. Matt Kemp blasted a home run his last time up.
Yeah, he blasted this one off speed pitch down in the zone from Adam Morgan. Number 34 in the year and RBI number 106.
Well, Matt, there is Dan Oakland. His hitting streak is still okay, though. His was at 33 games back in 11. Outside and low, 2-2. Why did they have him peel the number off the wall? I guess you got a Vander Holyfield. You might as well. Over toward third. He still might be able to turn 2 on this one. Cesar around the horn. He does. 5-4-3 double play. No runs, 1 hit, and nobody left. Nice inning for Klein. We'll head to the 7th. 9-2 Braves. Time now for your Delaware Valley Honda Dealers game summary as we go to the 7th inning. The Phillies have allowed 60 runs in the last 6 games. That's the first time since 1937. Ryan Howard has an RBI tonight. Freddy Freeman's extended his hitting streak to 30. He's also gotten on base for the 46th consecutive game. We move to the top of the 7th inning. Joel De La Cruz will face Cody Ashe, who walked his last time up. See the line score. 2, 3, and 4. Second, third, and fourth innings for the Braves.
Second, third, and fourth.
2, 3, and 4. Second, third, and fourth. Rio Ruiz takes over at third base. Fly ball to center field. Matt, it's time now for our Jeep Stump the Fans Trivia Quiz answer. In 2005, which Atlanta Brave led the National League in home runs and RBIs?
One of the best center fielders to ever play the game, Andrew Jones.
Andrew Jones had 51 home runs that year and drove in 128. And he was voted the Turner Field all center field. He was on the all Turner Field team as the center fielder. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Altair takes low. 39 years old now is Andrew Jones. He finished his major league career with 434 home runs and just shy of 200 hits. As Altair lines it foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. Andrew Jones won 10 Gold Gloves during his major league career. 12 of those years with the Atlanta Braves. Swing and a miss, 1-2.
And played the shallowest center field I've ever seen play. I mean, literally, you stand in the batter's box to hit, you see him behind the pitcher.
To the right side, Altair breaks his bat. And there are 2 outs. You know, B.J. Upton played that shallow a center fielder, you know, when he was playing with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays or the Rays. But he didn't go get baseballs the way Andrew Jones did.
No.
I remember at the Vet, you know, there used to be stains on the carpet at the Vet. And there was one just to the left in center field, and you can always see the difference where center fielders stood. Most stood on top of that stain, and Andrew Jones stood in front of that stain.
Well, and think about where he stood in this field compared to, would you say B.J. Upton?
B.J. Upton, yeah.
Where he stood, totally different size of field. I guess we should say Melvin Upton.
Well, at the time, I think it was
That's
B.J.,
true.
wasn't it? And a line drive caught by Castro. That is unfortunate. Tony Joseph hit it right on the nose. Time to stretch here at Turner Field. Braves on top 9-2 over the Phillies as we go to the bottom of the 7th. Set for his second inning of relief work. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire the opposition 1-2-3, Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Klein faces Tyler Flowers as we start off the bottom of the 7th inning. And it's 0-1. Flowers has a sac fly tonight. He also has a single, bloop single to center. Klein 6'7", 255 pounds. Selected in the 30th round by the Rangers. That's the team he made his major league debut with back in 2014. Been bothered by a bum elbow, but did throw yesterday, and that's why Pete felt like he was ready to go for today. There's a good chance he starts on Saturday. You know, the Phillies haven't decided how they're going to pitch Saturday's game against the Mets, The thought is it's going to be a bullpen game. Alec Asher will pitch on Friday, and Jared Eichhoff will pitch on Sunday. There was a thought they would move Asher to Saturday and then kind of do the bullpen thing on Friday night. Swing and a miss. 1 out. ...2017 full and partial ticket plans are now available at Citizens Bank Park. Call 215-463-5000 or visit Phillies.com for more details. Deposits are now being accepted. Get the same seat location for the 2017 season. Here's Swanson. Swanson tonight has doubled home a run. He's also tripled. He's grounded out to shortstop. John Gant in the pen for the Braves.
Interesting 9-2 game, and Swanson was taking a strike the whole way through.
Think he would be swinging early.
You would think.
A 1-out walk. And Alex Smith is coming up. Carson Wentz is Peyton Manning pre-snap and Aaron Rodgers post-snap. So says NFL analyst Brian Baldinger. He's live to talk about his high praise for the Eagles rookie phenom on the next Quick Slants tomorrow at 6 here on CSN. One ball and one strike. Up and away, 3-1.
Trying to guide it in there. Just throw it. Throw it through the mitt. See if you can break the glove.
Ball 4. Well, that puts 2 on. Bob McClure to the phone. Frank Herman's been warming up. And here is Castro. All right, so Pete Buchanan's coming up the stairs, and that's going to be it. They will go with the right-hander Frank Herman to take over for Klein. 30 pitches in an inning and a third. A pitching change here at Turner Field. Bottom of the 7th inning. Braves lead the Phils 9-2. Citizens Bank Park, where the Phillies take on the New York Mets. All fans coming to the ballpark will receive the 2017 Fathead of the Phillies schedule. Get your tickets now by going to Phillies.com. All around Major League Baseball games will begin at 3:05. That's because if there are any games that'll have postseason berths in the balance, they want them all to finish in the same general neighborhood. Bottom half of the 7th, 1 out, runners on first and second, and Frank Herman is the new pitcher for the Phillies. Herman delivers a fastball, and it's 0-1.
And trust me when I say this, there is a lot of scoreboard watching on that last couple of days. I mean, even today, when you're fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and there seems like, at least right now, that there will be spots in the balance, including the game at Citizens Bank Park. There's a good chance. And I said 3:05 Eastern time. Some games will be 3:10, but you know, the games on the West Coast they will start 3:05 Eastern time. One ball, 1 strike to Castro. There's a liner to right center field. That'll drop in for a base hit. Swanson will cruise home. Smith will cruise to third. 10-2 Atlanta. And Castro has 3 hits tonight. Well, the Phillies bullpen certainly has struggled here in the month of September. 1-8 coming in with an 8.03 ERA. Twins are in second, but look at the difference with that one. 8.03 to 5.65. Now, you look at the worst. Things are going really well in Boston, where the Red Sox bullpen ERA is 0.94. And the Orioles 1.52. This is Blake Lally, and he hits one off the end of the bat, left side of the mound. Herman has it, doesn't look the runner back to third. Here comes that runner, and he'll score. Alex Smith probably could have gone as that ball hit off the end of the bat up the third base line, but he waited for the throw, and it's now 11-2 Atlanta. Putout goes 1-3. He is fast.
He is fast, but I am doing one amount of chirping from the bench right now.
Oh, if you're the Phillies? There's Castro's single to right center field. That was his 3rd RBI of the night, and that scored Swanson, and that moved Malik Smith to third, and then the little chopper. Chirping because of the score?
Because it's 10-2. It's a little dribble down the third base line. You're going to get the out at first base, and then he's going to advance on the throw. Now maybe that's just the old school coming out of me, but I'm still chirping. You know, he sees you just relax. I can understand if you're going to go on contact. I don't know. The Cardinal rule was any play that's going to be close to home, if you have to slide in a blowout, you shouldn't go. Base hits in the outfield.
Yeah, there have been indications that this is a blowout. Freddie Freeman not being held on earlier in the 6th inning. One ball, 2 strikes to Inciarte.
Now, is it wrong that he did it today? No, because the game has changed that way.
Cesar Hernandez has to charge, and Inciarte is out at first. 2 more runs score for the Braves here in the 7th. So that means as we go to the 8th, it's 11-2. Braves on top. Toyota. Tested, trusted Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. By Jefferson. Call 800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Chevrolet, visit your local dealer at chevydealer.com. Top half of the 8th inning, the Phillies down by 9. This has been another one of those sloppy games for the Phils all across the board. Time now for our Hyundai defensive play of the game. This was a not so.
That was a good play. I mean,
yeah.
it was. I mean, this is. Morgan was very busy on the mound today. Smith was very quick. Has a nice bunt down. Not very often you see a 1-4 put out at first place, at first base.
That was a good defensive play.
That's your Hyundai defensive play of the game, brought to you by local Hyundai dealers.
Lally will take over at first base after pinch hitting. And John Gant is the new pitcher. And he will take over for De La Cruz. This is 19th ball game. Cesar Hernandez leads it off for the Phils. Cesar's lined out, walked, and reached on a fielder's choice. There you see the day for Cesar. Phillies saw Gant earlier this year as a starting pitcher. Talked about that funky delivery, which he has contested that he never knew was that funky until one of his former teammates started kind of making fun of him one day. He said, "I don't do it that way." Outside, 3-1. Hernandez will be followed by Emmanuel Burris in the on-deck circle. Gant this year in AAA was 3-3 with a 4.18 ERA. Matt, this is a little funkiness right here.
It's a little different. Boop.
Ball 4. Cesar's aboard. Time to get updated on what's going on around baseball. Here's Greg Murphy.
All right, thank you, Tom. It is our greater coverage of baseball presented by T-Mobile. And a story that should surprise nobody, the Cubs and their president of baseball operations, Theo Epstein, have agreed to a new 5-year contract extension. Since Epstein has arrived in Chicago, they've gone from a team that lost 101 games to a team that has won 101 games and still counting this season. Earlier, before the season began, Tom Rickards, who's the chairman of the Cubs, met with Epstein. And at that time, he told him, look, I think you're the best in baseball at what you do. And Epstein said to him, well, I don't want to work anywhere else. So they were off to a pretty good start with those contract negotiations. They got things done. He is staying for 5 more years in Chicago. And also the manager of the Cleveland Indians, Terry Francona, he wants to issue a calm down to everybody in Cleveland, telling the fans they do not need to worry. Their ace, Corey Kluber, is expected to be fine by the time the American League Division Series rolls around. He left their last win, the win that actually clinched it for them, because of a mild strain in his quad. But Terry Francona said today he will be just fine. They expect that he will start either Game 1 or Game 2 of the ALDS for the Cleveland Indians. So everyone in Cleveland can just relax and be fine, because it's all going to be okay.
Well, yeah, part of that is because their longtime columnist, Paul Hoynes, who is an excellent writer, we covered the Indians for a long time. He wrote a column last week as the Indians were on the doorstep of clinching the American League Central, basically saying, fans, they may win the division, but they're going nowhere in the postseason. I mean, I'm sort of paraphrasing it. 2 balls and 1 strike. And, you know, partly because their starting staff has gotten banged around the last couple weeks. Swing and a miss, 2-2. they're going to be a fun team to watch in the postseason.
I think they can be a sleeper team, a dangerous team. That's why you bring your glove,
That was
Tom.
an excellent catch. He had sized that up right from the get-go.
Didn't panic.
Be alert. That's what he says. Fly ball, shallow center. And Ciarte was playing shallow. Cesar goes back to first, one out. Odubel doubled and scored his last time. His average at 289. Got a little out front of himself on that one.
This is what you call, I'm going to hit this fastball. It's off speed. I was talking about scoreboard watching earlier. I remember back in 2000 when I was with the Oakland A's, and we played our Texas Rangers the last 3 games of the year, and we were in a fight with the Cleveland Indians, and they were winning, we would win. They would lose, we would lose. I think we went 9-2 our last 11 games. So we had to sweep the Indians. I'm sorry, sweep the Texas Rangers, and if we swept them and the Indians lost one of the last 3 games, we would clinch our division. But if they won out, we had to fly to Tampa to make up a game for our hurricane that came through. We got rained out, which did not ever rain that day. So we have to win the 3 games. So we go out the first 2 games and we beat up on Texas. Now we have to throw Tim Hudson, who's going for his 20th win. But we have to pitch him because we don't want to go all the way to Tampa. If we win that game, then we have to go all the way to Seattle and play a playoff game.
That's great.
And then if what happens after that happens. So we threw Hudson the last game of the year. We clinched the division by a half.
And who'd you throw after that?
Gil Heredia, I believe, started.
Oh, really, to start game
1 against the Yankees.
How'd that go?
Not so good.
Yeah,
we lost 5 straight. But it's just so interesting, though, that one game meant so much to an organization or a team, because now all of a sudden you're going to Tampa. Well, if you win that game, guess where you're going? Farther north, Seattle. So it all worked out well for us, but in the long run, it didn't.
I think for the managers and the pitching coaches, there's a little agita because you have to. You keep saying we're going to worry about this game. We're worrying about this game, and that's it. There's a one hopper, and it turns out to be a double play. There's so much to worry about, but you do have to get there first. So that's why sometimes you do have to throw your horse. 4-6-3 double play. On to the bottom of the 8th inning. Odubel retired on the DP. Bank Park is open daily from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Majestic Clubhouse Store is your place to go for all your Phillies needs during the season and in the off season. Well, Genmar Gomez will take over for the Phils here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Pete McKinnon said, I need to get him into a game just to kind of get him into a game, even though he said that he wasn't going to use him as a closer. Frank Herman, although he allowed 2 inherited runners to score, he did not allow any of his own runs to score. And it's the first time, Matt, since the 7th inning on Saturday that a reliever has come into the Phillies game and is not allowed a run to score. That's how tough this stretch has been. Here's Ruiz to face Genmar Gomez. That one's hit deep to center field. Herrera's on the run, and he can't get it. He misjudged it at the end. It's going to go to the wall. Ruiz already around second base on his way to third, and he will get there easily. It scored a triple. Well, for Rio Ruiz, a lot of smiles for his first major league hit. They're going to keep that baseball. Fans are giving him a standing ovation. Well, here's Bonifacio. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, not only get your first major league hit, but then it's a triple. I mean, he hit it pretty hard too. Even though it probably should have been caught by Odubel.
It should have.
Ruiz stumbles as he's heading home, as Bonifacio will be credited with an RBI. 4-3 on the putout. And Ruiz is greeted with high fives. Matt Kemp over to third. Michael Franco. Chaz Rowe warming up in the bullpen for the Braves.
Must have been low.
It had to be low. It's like the first pitch to Ruiz had to be inside. That one's hit sharply right at Burris. 1 run scores after the triple by Rio Ruiz. It's a 7-pitch 8th inning. Last chance for the Phils as we go to the 9th. for your WB Mason delivery of the game. We go back to the 4th inning. Matt Kemp.
That's an off-speed pitch down the zone. One of the better low ball hitters in the league. And when he gets a hold of it, it goes a long, long way. That's your WB Mason delivery of the game.
So now we go to the top of the 9th inning. 12 runs on 13 hits for the Braves. 2 runs on 3 hits. Chaz Rowe warming up on the mounds. Well, the Phillies are, it's an understatement to say that they are stumbling to the finish line. Pete had a meeting after Sunday's game. You know, so listen, guys, we got to get it together. I mean, we got to, and again, we're paraphrasing because, but he was frustrated. Freddie Galvis has sort of gone from person to person, it seems, in the dugout. A.J. Ellis, now Pete Mackanin. I mean, this has been a sloppy game for the Phillies. I mean, they only have the 1 error, but there's been so many other misplays. It's a pretty serious conversation going on. Bronco waves at the 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Swing and a miss. 1 out here in the 9th inning. Join former Phil and Atlanta Brave Tommy Green as he helps bring you all the highlights and analysis from tonight's ball game. Watch Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies postgame live following the final out here on CSN. Darren Ruff will pinch hit. Two. Those are 2 tough pitches for Darren Ruff. Out towards second. That's the second time. Tommy Joseph had it happen, and now Darren Ruff has it happen. Well, the shift works. 2 outs. And the Phillies down to their final at bat.
Be interested in spring training when we see these guys working on hitting that ball out through the hole at second base and that short, working on beating the shift. Yeah, I was kind of heated a little bit that night in New York. The more I thought about it, I liked the approach.
Don't give in, Matt. Don't give in.
No, I'm not giving in.
0-1. Now, those are 2 good swings by Darren Ruff and Tommy Joseph. It's just not much you can do about it.
Just dumb hitting.
Well,
as we say.
As you hitters say.
As the hitters say, it's dumb hitting.
0-1 to Cameron Rupp. Inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 is fouled off to the right side. We'll do it again. Over toward the left side, backhanded by Swanson. He just let it fly. Man, did he let it fly. It has been scored a base hit for Cameron Rupp. 4th hit of the night for the Phillies, and it gives Cody Ashley another chance.
See, and that's where you go down the book and say that's smart hitting.
Hit it to the shortstop toward the hole. I don't know if he didn't grip it right or what.
He tried to come up and put something else on the throw.
All right, so Cody Ashley is now up. Ashley is struck out, walked, and flied out to center. See if Cody can get something going. Bring his buddy Cameron Rupp around. This guy's got a pretty good breaking pitch. I guess everything looks good when you're up 12-2. Check swing. And over toward the Phillies dugout. Cody's staying alive again, gets a piece of it. Tomorrow, Jeremy Hellickson will be on the mound for the Phillies, as the Phillies are going to try to get out of Atlanta with at least one victory. They've only won one game on this road trip so far. Swing and a miss, and the ball game is over. Atlanta wins it 12-2 as they take game 2 of this 3-game series. Well, Matt Kemp's home run, that was one of the backbreakers in tonight's game. In reality, Castro and Swanson contributed runs, RBIs early. Castro finished with 3 hits, 3 singles, 3 RBIs. He's our Chevrolet player of the game. Swanson, an RBI double, an RBI triple in tonight's ball game. And a lot of long faces for the Phils. This has been a very frustrating road trip, even for a team that is less than 500 this year. This one has been tough to swallow. 12-2 the final. We'll be back after this to wrap it up.